Okay, you talked about agriculture and the youth, being, we are capital deficient and we are labor, we have a huge resource of labor. So how do you, and because agriculture forms like 70% of it's like a third of the GDP earnings. So how do you put those youth who are a majority of the population and with agriculture together so that we can make money for the country?
So the idea is, how do you, one, increase the incomes in the agricultural sector? How do you increase the income for the farmer? How do you increase his income? And you increase his income by increasing productivity. That means with the same level of input, he's able to produce more. That means he's able to sell more and make more make more money. How do you add value to what the farmer has made to get more value on it? If you look at the price of a kg of tea before being processed, and you look for a price of 200 grams of tea bags, you realize how much just putting them in tea bags, putting them in a box, putting a fancy name and calling it English breakfast tea, but grown in Kericho, picked by a farmer in Kericho and everything. And they've done literally nothing, just packaged it. They're able to sell it at 4 or 5 times the price of what the farmer is getting. So you want to get to a place where you increase the productivity of the farmer without additional labor input. Yeah. So if you increase the productivity of the farmer by mechanization, where he has 80 people tilling his ground with hose and picks, something a tractor can do one faster in most probably a day, and he takes a week or 2 weeks. So that's not being productive. So if you're saying this job now is being done by a tractor, how do we reskill these 80 people so that they can be of use to either the value addition of the tea, to carbonizing or decarbonizing, I don't know the right terminology of the tea. How can we reskill these people to work in the transport logistics of this tea, or the cold rooms for these flowers and these fruits, or even higher to where you are making the jam? Instead of selling the strawberries, can we make strawberry jam and sell strawberry jam instead? So it has to be a twin process. You can't just mechanize the agricultural sector, because then you'll have a huge unemployment problem. You need to do it at the same time as you are reskilling the labor so that it is useful for other for other industries. During Jubilee time, they used to come out and say, "Oh, we gotten Volvo to come and assemble cars here. We've gotten," and I'm thinking, why not get a tractor company to come and assemble tractors here? You might get more buyers for tractors than more buyers for a Volvo. And if they're assembled here, then the tractor becomes cheaper, fixing it becomes cheaper. So other than mechanizing, you then want to also look at the value chain. The time it takes from the farm to the ship, or the farm to the plane. What
Okay.
value can be done in between there? What industries can come and handle this element? Then comes in now your foreign ambassadors. Kenya has ambassadors all over the country, all over the world. The job of an ambassador is to create markets for their country. Because Kenya is at peace, we're not at war, so our ambassadors are not doing diplomacy. I think the scorecard for an ambassador is how much of our produce is now entering that country at favorable terms. So if you now have your ambassadors consistently looking for markets for our fruit jam, for our ground coffee, for our tea bags, for the products that we are producing, that byproducts that come from our avocados, the ones that we can't export. Can we make avocado oil? Can we make essential oils from our herbs, from our moringas and all those things? And we're not selling the moringa, but we're selling the essential oil, which for 100 ml you are selling for 1,500, 2,000. All of a sudden, you are increasing the incomes of the people in your agricultural sector. Once their incomes start increasing, they start demanding more of the finer goods. They start demanding more of TVs, radios, laptops, Wi-Fi, cars, weekend activities, because now they have the purchasing power. And because of that, now you start growing all the other industries around, incomes that have increased in the agricultural sector. But you cannot wish it away and say, we want to industrialize. But what are you industrializing when the people that are supposed to have the income to buy your industrial products are not there? So I think it's sequential economic policy leading to a goal that might take us 10, 15, 20 years, but it has to be done purposefully and sequentially towards an ended goal, so that even when we are changing our education system, we are saying, okay, we want to industrialize, we want to be the Silicon Savannah. How many IT software people are you producing in a year in our universities? Of the 100,000, 200,000 people that graduate, in 90 or 80% of them are in the humanities, philosophy, accounting, and all that. Very few engineers, very few software engineers. Then you want to become a silicon, whatever. So you find everything has to be connected, from our education sector, to government policy, moving towards a goal where we're saying in 20 years' time, Kenya has to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For us to reach there, we need to mechanize here, release labor here. We need to reskill this labor. It will take us a year or two. After we reskill this labor, we need to make sure that electricity is affordable so that industrial sector can start, and you move on like that. But we can't have the way we have a salad bowl of fiscal policy every year, and you really wonder, what are we trying to achieve with this?
Okay. So you've talked about mechanization of agriculture sector, so that because it holds the most jobs in the country, if we can mechanize the and value add and do value addition to this sector, then we can make sure that we have more people employed and the income bracket broadens. But also on that, there's also the issue of global prices, and if, especially because agriculture is affected by global prices. You talked about subsidies of fertilizer. What do you think about the government helping that agricultural sector by subsidizing some of the things, so that the farmer is able to still, have a competitive price in the world markets?
As you mentioned, there are a lot of things that, we when it comes to the agricultural sector, that you need to look at. Yeah, you need to look at the cost of inputs, definitely. Availability of water, availability of electricity, availability of fertilizer, good seeds, and all. So, for example, we have ILRI and CARI and all those other institutions. I don't know what they are doing in Nairobi, because all the farmers are not in Nairobi. They should be where the people are, but that's a discussion for another day. The government can subsidizing works, but it's not sustainable at a government level, because every subsidy has to be paid for by the government, and the government only raises money through two things: tax or debt. So you cannot have them subsidizing, and on the other side you're shouting that you're overtaxing us. You can't have both sides. The role of government through fiscal policy or monetary policy is to create an environment that makes it affordable for businesses to operate. So if it is fertilizer, the question of what is the major component or cost of fertilizer? Is it transportation of this fertilizer from Russia or from Ukraine? Yeah. How do we then reduce the cost of that transportation? Because the price of fertilizer is the same for everyone. The same they sell it to the Indians, the same they sell it to the Chinese, the same whatever. The major cost now is, how much does it cost me to move that shipment from Russia to, or from Ukraine to the port of Mombasa? Yeah. And again, that's where diplomacy comes in. And you say, hey, Tanzania, you are getting 100 tons. You are getting whatever tons. We are getting whatever. See, that's a full ship. Let's import together so that our cost has reduced. Or do we get into the shipping business, not for other things, but for our own products and our own goods? Yeah. So you start looking at some of those things, but subsidy in the long run, it is actually quite expensive. Are there alternatives to these type of fertilizers we use? Are there natural alternatives that we have in abundance here that we can actually make this fertilizer? How do we make sure that our soil is not so exhausted that we have to use fertilizer for our productivity? Is there a way we can crop rotate, leave some pieces of land idle for some time so that we are reducing the amount of fertilizer that we need to put into our products? You bring out a good point. Most of the time, for most of our products, Kenya is a price taker. That's the unfortunate bit about it. And when you're a price taker, when you're exporting raw, then you are more vulnerable than someone who has value added on their product. So as long as you're exporting unprocessed tea and processed fruits and processed vegetables and processed oil, so we are exporting the seeds and all, then you are subject to global prices. But when it's finished oil and you're saying, this is our finished product, this is the value we have added, we sell it at this price and it's good quality, you can say it's organic, we've not used fertilizers, because the Western world is on a craze of organic foods right now. You see, you work on that. As a short gap measure, you can say, okay, yeah, let's try and find a way we can subsidize fertilizer for now, but it should not be a long-term plan going forward.